Welcome back, and here we are with Dr. Lionel VonFrederick. We're about to discuss Syria and, you know, the situation right now in a perspective of where the world stands now, this whole, you know, this whole mix-up. So, morning, first of all.
No, in Akwana.
Yeah, in Akwana. Baraka to Safiya.
Baraka to Safiya.
I love the outfit, the way it matches the gold and white watch. It's a perfect fit.
And the yellow.
Well, I knew I would see her today, so this was by design. I wanted to impress her.
It fits you perfectly. I bet she is impressed.
Oh, I am impressed.
So now, Syria, Middle East. I mean, you've been to this area of the world, and you were recently in Yemen. I mean, Syria's been on for so long now. I mean, and now there's going to be some kind of a intervention from the states and everything. Where does the world stand right now if there's any kind of attack from the United States?
Well, the world will actually support it because it's been going on for so long that it's about time somebody did something.
Everyone's tired.
And no one it's 2 years now, and no one has done anything. But they have a mandate to act, because the United Nations Charter says the use of chemical weapons by anyone against another person for any reason, any place in the world, is a crime against humanity, which would be you're actually asking for an attack by the members of the United Nations who actually signed that charter. Therefore, if it's done, then no one can actually argue against it. There are some people saying if he did it, it's the same thing. If Bush did it, it would be the same thing that if Obama did it, it would be the same thing that George Bush did. But not necessarily so, because it's a crime. It's a crime against humanity when you use chemical weapons. And I think that the President of the United States has a real good reason to act. And I wouldn't like to see him do it unilaterally by himself, but he already has France who signed on to actually help him. Which, by the way, you know, we always, in the West, we always laugh at France as being one of the countries that could never do anything in terms of war. But this new leader, for some reason, has emerged as one of the most formidable leaders who actually have taken the opportunity every time there was a problem to actually go forth and try to rectify the problem. So I commend France and its leadership for joining Obama in criticizing the use of chemical weapons and the intent to go in and do something about it.
Now, America is actually planning a hit on Syria, on particular points in Syria where they feel there's actually a threat there. Now, we all know Britain as an ally, and there's a very strategic role Britain will play if it supports Western intervention into Syria. But recently, Parliament voted no against David Cameron, who brought about this. Now, what do you think is the implication of Britain not supporting a hit on Syria?
Well, Britain is going to have to act, because it's just one of those things where they are a part of the United States. It's a duo. They're like brothers and sisters, or two brothers. They always go together. And this setback for Cameron that took place I think it's just one of those family squabbles that they're having, because in the end, Britain has to come forth and show its support. For one, they're very cautious about the idea about the use of chemical weapons. They're saying they want to see some proof that it actually did happen. There is proof that it happened. I think they're kind of a little taken back by what George Bush did in Iraq when he said that there was chemical weapons. And they don't want to take that chance and get swept into a war without having some concrete evidence. There is evidence that Assad actually used chemical weapons. Actually, this is not the first time. He's used it 14 times in the past, but it has not been the intelligence community kept it quiet. They just chose to ignore it. But this time, it was so blatant that they had to really act and do something about it. So I will almost guarantee you, when the United Nations inspection team go back and brief the United Nations about what took place, Britain will come on board and support the United States.
Okay, so now let's talk about the neighbors. I mean, neighboring countries that are bordering Syria.
Lebanon.
Yeah, are they
just an hour plus drive from Damascus to Beirut?
Already, they've been asked to open up their borders for, for refugees and all that. I mean, are they actually prepared, or how well prepared do you think these countries are for this?
Well, it will affect Lebanon in more of a social manner, because Lebanon is kind of right now is broke. It doesn't have much resources, so everybody's going to flee into Lebanon, but they do not have the resources to amount of refugee status camp and all that stuff. So it'll be dangerous for the people going in there. The people you have to worry about is Iran. And because Iran is saying that they will, if the United States were to get involved in what's going on in Syria, then the whole Middle East is going to blow up. There's going to be conflagration and all that stuff. But I personally do not believe that that will happen. It's their way of trying to get the United States out, or the rest of the world, from what's going on, because what's going to go on in Syria will affect what's happening in Iran. And Iran is worried that is going to spill over there into their country and bring notice on them and their nuclear weapons and ambitions. They do not have the nuclear capability as yet to do anything if the United States were to strike. They're trying to develop the weaponry, but they're not there yet. In another year or two, perhaps, but not right now. So the United States knows this, and they're not going to be too worried about what Iran is saying. It's just that manly posture to look good.
Now we also have issues of chemical weapons. I mean, since Beirut and Damascus is just like an hour plus drive, aren't we worried that these chemical weapons could actually spill to Lebanon?
Well, it can spill over because it's so close. First of all, if you use chemical weapons, the wind can blow it any way it wants to blow. And as we know, these weapons, are so sophisticated. You know, there has again chlorine, phosgene is what chokes you, and the mustard is what burns you. And this has been used since World War I and World War II, and we still use it today. And the sarin gas makes it just impossible to know that you do not smell it. You'll be walking, going about your business, and all of a sudden you feel as if you can't breathe, as if someone is choking you. And if enough gets on your skin, it's like a mist. It burns you, and it burns, it rips through your skin, and it goes into your flesh. And it will look like, it depends on how badly you were affected by it. It can look as if you were eaten by an animal. That's how bad it is. I
mean, we saw the one in Syria, where students, it was used on students in a school environment, and we just saw the burns. I mean, it was like their skin was actually peeling off. I mean, it was that terrible.
Well, could you imagine if you were walking in the street and then all of a sudden, before your very eyes, your skin starts to peel, or your cheeks start to melt, or your nose start melting off? That's exactly what it is. And at the same time, you cannot breathe. And so it's a slow, agonizing death. It's like you're drowning, or somebody put a rope around your neck and just keep tightening it slowly. It doesn't kill you one time. So it's agonizing, and that is one of the things that makes chemical weapons, the use of it, so disastrous, and why the rest of the world is so appalled about the use of chemical weapons.
It's kind of like another form of torture.
You're being tortured to death. That's what it is. You're being tortured to death. Like I said, you see your skin burning up in front of you, and can you imagine the fear that's going on in the victim's head when you see like I said, if you really get a lot of it, it will peel right off. It will look like an animal actually was eating you to death.
Okay, now let's look at the involvement of China and Russia. China and Russia against any Western influence, say Western strike in Syria. Now, let's look at the implications of this.
Well, Russia and China, they are allies with Syria. They have not come out and condemned Syria for anything at all. Whatever Assad has done, they sit silently by and they make up excuses. Russia gets a lot of its oil from Syria and sells a lot of things, a lot of import-export to Syria. The Chinese, they see Syria as one of the big import-export people that they do business with, and they do not want to disrupt that relationship, that business relationship, trade relationship that they have with them. So they don't care what these people do or how many people they kill. They don't disrupt my business venture with you. And to be honest, Russia is not going to do anything. China is not going to do anything. So the rest of the United Nations Security Council is going to have to come to a decision to either do it without them, which they will, or the United States, France, and England is going to have to do it alone.
No, we're talking about the rest. We have United States, England, which is undecided for now. We have France, which has actually supported the United States. We have Germany. We have Russia and China out. Now, we just have these 4 countries in case there's Britain agrees. I mean, this, we don't know where Germany is actually standing for now.
Right. Germany is very silent, but I do believe that the Germans will join us. Will join us, meaning the rest of the world who are appalled by such a dastardly act, because the Germans, they're the ones who, you know, is historically delineated and articulated and written about the use of chemical weapons in the death camps against the Jews by Hitler. And so they too understand the implications very much as anybody else, or more so than anyone else. So they have a duty to act. If they decided not to act, it will make them look really bad. And I think that they will definitely go out and act.
Yes, al-Assad seems to be in, I don't know, big trouble, tight corner. How can we explain that? I mean, he also made a statement about if the Western world comes to attack, that Syria will retaliate. This is a phrase, what does this say? I mean, does it mean that he's actually prepared and well prepared, and he can actually stand up to the Western world and take him on?
It's just posturing. He wants to sound bad, you know. Don't they all do that? Don't all dictators say the same things? If you come here, there'll be dire consequences. I'll kill all of you. You come to my country, and this is what you will see.
Yeah.
Look at all of those dictators and see where they are now. They're dead.
Definitely,
so
but
they can't do anything.
Well, it's a bold statement to make.
No.
I think we should also get the public involved in this. We'll go on a break, and when we come back, you can tell us a bit more about that phrase that he made. Stay tuned. We'll be taking a short break. After the break, the phone lines will be open for the viewers to participate. Stay tuned.
Starting from the 27th of May 2013, Safiya Breakfast Show will commence broadcast at 8 a.m. to 10 a.m. with the same great presenters, exclusive interviews, awesome programming and quality broadcast. You can be sure that the Safiya Breakfast Show is just for you. Safiya Breakfast Show, showing exclusively on TV GoTel.
Back. And we're talking about Syria, the situation there, how al-Assad, we stopped off where al-Assad made a statement about trying to play tough guy. And what exactly were you trying to say that means? It doesn't mean that he's actually ready, or Syria is ready for this attack, does it?
Syria is not in any condition to beat anybody. For the last 2 years, they've been at war, so all of the weapons, everything they have is almost depleted. So they're not, all of the people either died or defected.
So al-Assad is bluffing then?
He's bluffing to an extent, but what he's trying to do, what he will do is if he would attack Israel, Israel will retaliate, he would like Israel to retaliate. And if Israel were to retaliate, then it becomes an Arab-Israeli war. Because then all he's feeling or believing that all the Arab nations will come to his aid.
But will they? That's
well,
the
exactly.
Yes,
will they? And I don't think that they will come to his aid. The only one I know that will go to his aid is Iran. Because Iran does not want anything to spill over into its country or to interfere with its nuclear ambitions right now. And the other thing would be that England, France, and the United States will probably tell Israel, stay out of it, we'll handle it, because they know the intention is to draw them in to the war so that Assad can get help from his Arab friends.
Okay.
And so these are the things that would be happening. But Israel may not be that easy to say, okay, you handle it, you go alone. I think Israel is at this moment wants to retaliate really badly so they can get to Iran.
So who exactly are Syria's allies?
Syria, well, in the region, they don't really have any allies at this moment. They have the Lebanese militant group supporting them, but it's not all of Lebanon support them. Besides that, they have no one but Iran. All the others have stayed mute and have stayed
Egypt
neutral.
has its problems. I don't think
Egypt is not going to get involved because they have their own internal problems. And even if Egypt were to be running smoothly, it will not get involved with that. Because they did before, the Arab-Israeli war. They went in to help each other, and you saw what happened. Israel came out victorious. Israel took on the whole Arab nation, the whole Arab world, and in the end they came out victorious because they said never again and all that stuff, and they probably really mean it. But the thing is, not to get Israel involved and start upsetting the whole Arab world, and then it turns into an Arab-Israeli-Jewish war. And that's what Assad is counting on. But they won't let it happen.
Okay.
They will not let it happen.
So let's try to get viewers involved. I mentioned earlier that the phone lines would be open for your participation, and they're open now. You'll see the number scrolling at the bottom of your screen. Don't forget to keep a distance from your TV set or turn down the volume a notch so that we can get you clearly and there's no interference. And, well, the question would be, what is your opinion of Syria using chemical weapons on its own people?
That's terrible, Lionel. We're still expecting results from the UN observers who went to Syria to conduct an investigation if chemical weapons were used, and who actually used chemical weapons. A lot of people are pointing hands on the Assad government. It's been certified he used chemical weapons. He said rebels said him, and now he's been certified the government actually used chemical weapons. Now, when these observers submit their reports to the UN, and some of these countries from the West decide to launch an attack on Syria, do you see Assad backing down?
Assad will not back down right away. He will when the pressure gets hot, because he will be, when it starts, he's going to hope that other nations come to his aid. When he realizes that he's going alone at it, that is when he's going to ask for asylum somewhere.
But at least for now, he should know that he will be going alone.
He doesn't think so, because, you know, Iran is probably boosting him behind, say, go ahead, we will take care of you. And maybe the militant Lebanese groups are telling him, Hezbollah is actually, it's what they are. They're probably telling him the same thing. You go ahead, we have your back.
Yes.
But when the tough gets going, that's when you know who your real friends are. He does not have that many friends.
Sorry to cut you short. Let's take our first phone call. We have Saad from Jamaica. Good morning, Saad.
Good morning, sir.
How are you doing?
Mine is like a question to Prof. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Go on.
Why is it that Americans are desperate to strike in Syria? Because if you can see from what happened in Iraq, they did not conclude investigation of strike in Syria and in Iraq. And now, United Nations investigators are there. They are filing investigations, and yet America wants to strike. So is it that America are desperate to attack Syria? What can Paul say about this opinion that people are saying that this data issue will lead to First World War?
Okay. Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Saad. It's just as you said about Bush, what Obama's doing. People would think it's the same thing that Bush did.
Right, that's a good comment that the caller made. And that's why I said earlier, if Obama were to do it, he's going to have the same kind of criticism that Bush had when he went into Iraq. What Obama would have going for him would be that the inspectors will come back, they're leaving today, they will come back with evidence that Assad used chemical weapons. If a country were to use chemical weapons, any country against anyone for any reason, then it is the United Nations have got to come together to go, and it's an act against, a crime against humanity. The law states, the charter says they will go in after that country that uses it. So Obama will not be in a sense that in the same position as Bush was, because Bush went in on his own and they didn't find any weapons of mass destruction like he was searching for. But this time, there will be evidence to show that he did, in fact, use chemical weapons. And the satellites actually showed where the weapons were fired from. So they know exactly where it came from and how it was launched and when it was launched. So all of this stuff that Assad saying they didn't do it, it's, you know, the inspectors will have the proof. Now, if the inspectors go back and say there is no proof that it was done, that would be another, you know, maybe a setback for Obama and France and England. But I don't think they will say that. I think they will prove that there was weapons that were used.
All right, we have another caller. We have Abdurrahman from Jamaica. Good morning, Abdurrahman. All right, let's get your contribution.
Hello, Abdurrahman, can you please repeat your question? We didn't get you. Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, we've lost that caller. Yeah? Wow. Well, it's a sticky situation for al-Assad, and Syria right now, very, very big messes in. But how would it look like if the U.S. was to actually descend on Syria? How would an attack look like from the U.S.?
Well, it's a good question. They're not going to send any troops into Syria because the United States just cannot afford to send troops in there right now. And then it look imperialistic, so they'll probably just use drones to take out known chemical plants that he used to manufacture and launch chemical weapons. They'll probably just take them.
A lot of people are mistaking United States intervention in Syria, maybe a strike in Syria. People are thinking United States will send army like they did in Iraq, and people are confused about that. So we're not seeing that in Syria.
No, you definitely won't see that. I mean, I'm not Obama, and I'm not the one making the decision, but I know just from what's going on in the world about warfare, he doesn't have the resources to send people into Syria, and the American people are tired of war. And they've been fighting a war since Iraq and Afghanistan for many, many years. And the people don't want to see any more of that. And there's no reason to send people there either. It's because you have this sophisticated weaponry that can take out, I mean, you can, from the Mediterranean Sea, you can launch missiles and take out any kind of targets you want in Syria without even sending anyone there. So there is no reason to send any troops in there. And it will be limited in nature.
No, so somebody would fear maybe this target, would there be civilians actually in that particular location?
Well, in every warfare there is civilian deaths. You will always find there'll be civilian casualties. The object is to minimize the civilian casualties. But to sit back and do nothing would be more atrocious than anything else. Once you cross that line and you use chemical and biological weapons, it's time for the world to act. And this is what I think you see is happening right now.
Okay, let's take our final call. We have Ibrahim from Damari. Good morning, Ibrahim. Hello, Ibrahim. Good morning.
Yeah, as most things, what I just try to do, you can get of the planning country. But what Russia do is very good against US. Hello, are you listening?
Yes, Ibrahim, could you repeat that? We didn't quite get you clearly.
Yes, what Americans are doing, that this is not good. Yes, because Americans, they are trying to operate a war against Syria. That war will end about Islam. Yes, if America took this, the Russians will not happen.
Okay, thank you, Ibrahim. Another viewer talking about what America is doing is not right. They think America is trying to oppress or suppress.
Well, there's going to be, it's a controversial act and a controversial decision to go to war. But is it worse to go in or worse not to do anything? So should the world stand by and watch a man just poison his people to death? What should we do, or what should the world do? What should any nation do?
Okay, so now another question that I think should be asked, where I haven't really seen much of attention to this side, is what now should al-Assad do? I mean, he's messed up, yes, but what now would be the best option for him?
Right now, the best option for Assad would be to seek asylum in some country. At least leave while you are alive. Take all your money, take everything you have, all your possessions, and go to a country and live out the rest of your life, like all the others have ever done. Because if he stands and fight, he's going to get killed. You watch all the other leaders who stood and tried to stand their ground, and they're all dead. Or if you're not dead, you're captured. And then you're going to have to go before the World Court to stand trial for...
Humiliating.
And it's humiliating.
And he definitely can't talk his way out.
Exactly. So you're either going to get killed or you're going to be humiliated in front of the world. And there's all the evidence to show that he did this. So if, the only problem, the big problem I see in all of this is if Assad were to leave, who will take over?
Well, that's...
who is going to run the country? And that, to me, is the biggest consideration of all.
So
who will run the country?
possibly we'll see parties emerging in the Syrian government. I'm sure something will happen.
Well,
possibly we'll have an interim government. Possibly we'll have, well, something will just happen.
We're going to have a lot of different groups coming. You know, Syria has many different groups too, just like we have in Nigeria. And everybody just waiting for that moment for Assad to leave.
Yes, to grab a piece.
To grab a piece of
exactly.
it and say, I'm the leader.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we'll be waiting up for those updates. Syria is always giving us something to talk about, definitely, for 2 years now, and it's never boring. Well, thank you very much for coming on the show, Lionel. It's been great having you again, as usual.
I only come because of her, it's not because of you.
There is no her without me on the show.
Spoken like a real champion. I like this man.
I'm bluffing like Al-Assad. We still have an entrepreneur coming in to discuss with us just how she got to where she is now, and she's very skilled. It's taking her to many places. But first, did you know